Shalom. Well, I wanted to do one more message for the night, and it honestly it has to do with the fact that I've had people talk over the years saying that there is no way that Yahweh has appeared in human form. And I'm actually going to show you 7 instances in Scripture where that has actually happened. We're not going to be counting the Gospels because we're going to be sticking strictly to the Old Testament. Now, on that note, there is an argument. Excuse me for a second. There is an argument out of Scripture that is used quite a lot by several groups of people, even people that don't have any faith, the Muslims. You'll have people in the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. You'll have members of the. I'm having a brain fart right now. Give me a minute here. The ultra-Orthodox Jews. And what is commonly brought up is Numbers 23:19. I'm going to go ahead and read that for you here. And I'm reading out of the NASB 95 edition here. So it says here in Numbers 24, verse 19, it says, God is not a man that he should lie, nor a son of man that he should repent. He has said, and will he not do so? Has he said, and will he not do it? Or has he spoken, and will he not make it good? Okay, so people want to take this particular verse right here and use only this when they're not reading in the context that Balak is wanting this particular individual. You're going to have to read it yourself. I'm not really wanting to verbally speak the name of this man that Balak is wanting to curse the Israelites. But the problem is people will go in and read the passage, and I, for the longest time, had a hard time understanding exactly what this meant, because, obviously, to me, it didn't make any sense, like it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But then again, it goes back to the old thing. You got to read things in context. You read 20 verses before it and then read 20 verses after it, then you get context. So you go through and read this stuff, and then, let me change my paper notes here for a second. Okay, so I want to break this down into a couple of bits right here. It says right here at the very beginning that God is not a man that he should lie. Okay, so Yahweh blessed Israel. And Yah is not somebody who is double-minded. He does not go back on his covenants, his blessings, none of it. So he doesn't lie as a man would lie. So that right there kills the first part of that whole verse, what people think it means, that he's not a man, that he doesn't come down as a man, that he would lie. It says right here, God is not a man that he should lie. And that's correct. God is not a man that he should lie. He is not a sinful flesh like the rest of us are that would lie like everyone else on the face of the planet does. That's not who he is. He is not double-minded. He is not going to bless Israel and then take that blessing away and then let them be cursed from this king Balak. It's just not going to happen. So it says, right here, Yah blesses Israel not to lie and break his blessings. So the guy Balak asked so he could curse them. So Yah has blessed Israel. He is not a man that would lie as a man does, to take back his blessing and then turn around and curse Israel. It's just not going to happen. Now, and plus, cursing Israel wouldn't do any good to begin with, because if you stay on that same chapter, and then go down to verse 23, for there is no omen against Jacob, nor there any division against Israel. As a proper time it shall be said to Jacob and to Israel, what Elohim has done. So there is no amount of curses that can break Yahweh's blessing on Israel. It's a fool's errand to begin with. So for people to sit here and say that Yahweh doesn't appear as man, that Yeshua is not Yahweh in the flesh, they are completely twisting around Numbers 24:19, so that they can make it sound the way they want to, and those are people that you need to avoid. So I figured, I would kill two birds with one stone with that. The other parts that I want to touch upon here that give further credence to what is actually being said in verse 19. Let's go ahead and flip over to Isaiah 7. Whoop, went a little past it. Isaiah 7:14. Therefore Yahweh himself will give you a sign. Behold, a virgin will be with child and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel. Now, I am not in the habit of using the word Lord or God as a title word when we are supposed to know the name of the God of Israel. So in this case, Emmanuel translated means God is with us, but again, I am not using that title. So translated, Yahweh is with us. Secondly, we're going to go up into Isaiah 9. Oop, I went too far. So Isaiah 9, 6 and 7 here. For a child will be born to us, and a son will be given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God. In this case, it's appropriate. Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. There will be no end to the increase of his government or peace on the throne of David and over his kingdom, to establish it and to uphold it with justice and righteousness from then on and forevermore. The zeal of Yahweh of armies will accomplish this. So just out of Isaiah alone backs up and supports that Yahweh can and will become a human as he desires. Anyone who says that Yahweh cannot come down as the flesh of men, who are you to tell Yahweh what he can and cannot do because of misreading and twisting Scripture? So the first part of this, where Yahweh appears, let me get into the book of Genesis here. That went too far. Okay, Genesis 16, 9 through 13. See, this is when Sarah had kicked Hagar out of the camp along with her son Ishmael. Let's see here. Then the angel of Yahweh said to her, return to your mistress and submit yourself to her authority. Moreover, the angel of Yahweh said to her, I will greatly multiply your greatly multiply your descendants, so that they will be too many to count. The angel of Yahweh said to her further, Behold, you are with child, and you will bear a son, and you shall call his name Ishmael, because Yahweh has given heed to your affliction. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hands will be against everyone, and everyone's hands will be against him. And he will live to the east of his brothers. Then she called the name of Yahweh who spoke to her. You are a Elohim who sees, for she said, Have I even remained alive here after seeing him? So, before somebody wants to jump up, kick, and say, well, you just read that that's an angel. Yes, but again, Yahweh can appear in the forms of what he chooses. So let's not get it twisted, and let's not, get things misunderstood here. And no, this isn't talking about blessing of angels and all that kind of stuff. That's not what this is. So we're going to move over to Genesis 18. So this is going to be birth of Isaac promised to Abraham. So this is going to be a little extensive. So, starting in chapter 18, and what did I mark down here? Oh, it's going to be the entire chapter. Okay. Now Yahweh appeared to him by the oak of Merah, while he was sitting at the tent door in the heat of the day. When he lifted up his eyes and looked, behold, 3 men were standing opposite him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them, and bowed himself to the earth, and said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in your sight, please do not pass your servant by. Please let a little water be brought, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under the tree, and I will bring out a piece of bread, that you may refresh yourselves. After that you may go on, since you have visited your servant. And they said, So do as you have said. So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah, and said, Quickly prepare 3 measures of fine flour, knead it, and make breaded cakes. Abraham also ran to the herd, and took a tender and choice calf, gave it to the servant, and he hurried to prepare it. He took curds and milk, and the calf which had been prepared was placed it before them, and he was standing by them under the tree as they ate. Then they said to him, Where is Sarah your wife? And he said, They're in the tent. He said, I will surely return to you at this time next year, and behold, Sarah your wife will have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door which was behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in age. Sarah was past childbearing. Sarah laughed to herself, saying, After I have become old, shall I have pleasure, my Lord being old also? And Yahweh said to Abraham, Why does Sarah laugh, saying, Shall I indeed bear a child when I am so old? Is anything too difficult for Yahweh? At the appointed time I will return to you at this time next year, and Sarah will have a son. Sarah denied it, however, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. After he said, No, but you did laugh. Then the men rose up from there and looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham was walking with them and to send them off. Yahweh said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, since Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and in him all the nations of the earth will be blessed? For I have chosen him so that he may command his children and his household after him to keep these ways of Yahweh by doing righteousness and justice, so that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken about him." And Yahweh said, "The outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great, and their sin is exceedingly grave. I will go down now and see if they have done entirely according to the outcry which has come to me, and if not, I will know." Then the men turned away from there and went toward Sodom, while Abraham was still standing before Yahweh. Abraham came near and said, "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you indeed sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it for you to do such a thing, to slay the righteous with the wicked, so that the righteous and the wicked are treated alike. Far be it for you from you. Shall not the judge of the earth deal justly?" So Yahweh said, "If I find Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare the whole place on their account." And Abraham replied, "Now behold, I have ventured to speak to Yahweh, although I am but dust and ashes. Suppose the 50 righteous are lacking 5, would you destroy the whole city because of 5? And he said, "I will not destroy it if I find 45 there." He spoke to him yet again and said, "Suppose 40 are found there." And he said, "I will not do it on the account of 40. Then he said, "Oh, may Yahweh not be angry, and I shall speak. Suppose there are 30 are found there." And he said, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." And he said, "Now behold, I have ventured to speak to Yahweh. Suppose 20 are found there." And he said, "I will not destroy it on the account of 20. Then he said, "Oh, my Lord, do not be angry, and I shall speak only this once. Suppose 10 are found there." And he said, "I will not destroy it on the account of 10. As soon as he had finished speaking to Abraham, Yahweh departed, and Abraham returned to his place. Now, going into the next chapter is something else I wanted to bring up here. As Sodom and Gomorrah was being destroyed, this is in chapter 19, verses 23 and 24. The sun had risen over the earth when Lot came to Zoar. Then Yahweh rained on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. Interesting little situation there, isn't it? Now, what some people need to understand about this one is that Yahweh can be both on earth and in heaven simultaneously. Just because he's in one place doesn't mean that he's not in the other. Yahweh is what is referred to as omnidirectional. He can be at many places at the exact same time without, in other words, so let's say that Yahweh was here in my home with me. He can be in Japan and still be here at the exact same time. It's not like you have with your angels or with Satan. When they're in one place, they're in that place and nowhere else. They can't be in two places at once. Yahweh can be in 1,000 places at the same time on earth and in heaven simultaneously. So now we're going to move on to Genesis 22, 14 and 11. Whoops. 11 and 14. Let's see here. The offering of Isaac. So this is where Abraham's getting ready to offer a sacrifice to Yahweh, and his son is going to be the sacrifice. So I'm going to start in verse 10 here. It says, Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of Yahweh called aloud to him from the Shamaim, Abraham, Abraham. He said, Here I am. He said, Do not stretch out your hand against the lad and do nothing to him. For now I know you fear Elohim, since you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. Now, something else I want to also point out, since I'm here, that this particular passage in chapter 22 runs a very staunch parallel to Yeshua. And the reason I say that is that the son was going to be sacrificed by the father. And then Isaac also carrying up the firewood for the sacrifice on his back, just like Yeshua carried the stake. Let me get to where. Okay, so right here I'm going to start in verse 7. I'm going to show you this parallel here. And then Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, My father. He said, Here I am, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, Elohim will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering. So the two of them walked on together. So he said that Yahweh will provide his own sacrifice. Yahweh provided his own sacrifice for mankind by the sacrifice of his son, Yeshua. Let's see here. Then I want to go to Genesis 32. So right here is going to be the story of where Jacob wrestles. Then Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the daybreak. When he saw that he had not prevailed against him, he touched the socket of his thigh, so that the socket of Jacob's thigh was dislocated while he wrestled with him. Then he said, Let me go, for the dawn is breaking. But he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he said to him, What is your name? And he said, Jacob. He said, Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel. For you have striven with Elohim and with men and have prevailed. Then Jacob, now called Israel, asked him and said, Please tell me your name. But he said, Why is it that you ask my name? And he blessed him there. So Jacob named the place Peniel, for he said, I have seen Elohim face to face, yet my life has been preserved. Now the sun rose up upon him just as he crossed over Peniel, and he was limping on his thigh. Therefore, to this day, the sons of Israel do not eat the sinew of the hip which was on the socket of the thigh, because he touched the socket out of Jacob's thigh, and that the sinew on the hip. Okay, we're going to go down to the Exodus. Okay. So this is the burning bush with Moses. See, I'm going to read from verse 1 to verse 4. Now Moses was pasturing the flocks of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the west side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. The angel of Yahweh appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of the bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, yet the bush was not consumed. So Moshe said, I must turn aside now and see this marvelous sight, which the bush is not burned up. When Yahweh saw that he turned aside and looked, Elohim called him from the midst of the bush and said, Moshe, Moshe, and he said, Here I am. Then he said, Do not come near here. Remove your sandals from your feet, for this place on which you are standing is holy ground. Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. So in the beginning, it says right here, the angel of Yahweh appeared to him in a blazing fire from the midst of the bush. So people say, okay, so this is an angel that's appearing in a blaze of fire. This isn't Yahweh. Explain to me then, how of anyone other than Yahweh, why would you remove your footwear, your sandals, because this is holy ground? An angel does not make the land that you are standing on holy ground. The only one that can make that holy ground is Yahweh himself. So it was Yahweh that was there, that chose to appear in that fashion, in that bush, who told Moses, he said, Do not come near here. Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. There is no way to argue out of that whole situation. The angel that appeared in the burning bush was Yahweh, which turned that area into holy ground. Anywhere Yahweh is, his presence, and where he is standing is holy ground. Going into Judges. Okay, this is Judges chapter 13, verses 2 through 23. It's almost the entire chapter. Whew. There was a certain man of Zohar, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and had borne no children. Then the angel of Yahweh appeared to the woman and said to her, Behold, now you are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and give birth to a son. Now therefore be careful not to drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing, for behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son, and no razor shall come upon his head, for the boy shall be a Nazarite to Elohim from the womb, and he shall bring to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. Then the woman came and told her husband, saying, A man of Elohim came to me, and his appearance was like the appearance of an angel of Elohim, very awesome. And I did not ask him where he came from, nor did he tell me his name. But he said to me, Behold, you shall conceive and give birth to a son, and now you shall not drink wine, strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing, for the boy shall be a Nazarite to Elohim from the womb of the day of to the day of his death. Then Manoah entered Yahweh and said, O Yahweh, please let the man of Elohim whom you have sent come to us again, that he may teach us what to do for the boy who is to be born. Elohim listened to the voice of Manoah, and the messenger of Elohim came again to the woman as she was sitting in the field, but Manoah, her husband, was not with her. So the woman ran quickly and told her husband, Behold, the man who came the other day has appeared to me. Then Manoah arose and followed his wife, and when he came to the man, he said to him, Are you the man who spoke to the woman? And he said, I am. Manoah said, Now, when your words come to pass, what shall be the boy's mode of life and his vocation? So the messenger of Yahweh said to Manoah, Let the woman pay attention to all that I say. She should not eat anything that comes from the vine, nor drink wine or strong drink, nor eat any unclean thing. Let her observe all that I command. Then Manoah said to the angel of Yahweh, Please let us detain you so that we may prepare a young goat for you. The messenger of Yahweh said to Manoah, Though you detain me, I will not eat your food, but if you prepare a burnt offering, then offer it to Yahweh. For Manoah did not know that he was the angel of Yahweh. Manoah said to the messenger of Yahweh, What is your name, so that when your words come to pass, we may honor you? But the messenger of Yahweh said to him, Why do you ask my name, seeing it is wonderful? So right here, when Jacob was wrestling Yahweh, he asked, What is his name? And he said, Why do you ask my name? Same thing's happening here. So Manoah took the young goat with the grain offering and offered it on the rock to Yahweh as he performed wonders, while Manoah, his wife, looked on. For it came about when the flame went from the altar toward heaven, then the messenger of Yahweh ascended in the flame of the altar. When Manoah and his wife saw this, they fell on their faces to the ground. Now the messenger of Yahweh did not appear to Manoah or his wife again. Then Manoah knew that he was the messenger of messenger of Yahweh. So Manoah and his wife, we will surely die, for we have seen Elohim. Right there, they said it. For we shall die, for we have seen God. Right there. See, Daniel 3. Oh, went too far. Excuse me? What in the world is going on here? There we go. Okay, this is Daniel 3:23 through 29. Let's see. Okay, so this is I'm going to just read the whole chapter. It's 30 verses long. But this is where Daniel's friends were tossed into the fire by Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with wrath, and his facial expression was altered towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and he answered by giving orders to heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. He commanded his command certain valiant warriors who were with his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in order to cast them into the furnace of blazing fire. Then the men were tied up together, trousers with their coats, their caps, and other clothing, and were cast into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire. For this reason, because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace had been made extremely hot, the flames of the fire slew those men who carried up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire, still tied up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the king was astonished and stood up in haste, said to his high officials, "Was it not 3 men we cast bound into the midst of the fire?" They replied to the king, "Certainly, O king." He said, "Look, I see 4 men loose and walking around in the midst of the fire without harm. The appearance of the 4 of them is like a son of the gods." Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the furnace of blazing fire. He responded and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out, you servants of the Most High God. Come out here." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the midst of the fire. The straps, the prefects, the governors, and the king's high officials gathered around and saw, in regard to these men, that the fire had no effect on the bodies of these men, nor was their hair of their head singed, nor was their trousers damaged, nor had the smell of the fire even come upon them. Nebuchadnezzar responded and said, "Blessed be the Elohim of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his messenger and delivered his servants who put their trust in him, violating the king's commandment and yielding up their bodies so as not to serve or worship any god except their own God." So right there in the midst of the fire, Yahweh appeared yet again to protect the 3 servants, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So for people to say that Yahweh could not appear in the flesh and Yeshua is not Yahweh in the flesh, they got some serious work to do and some serious repenting to do, because as it said with Abraham and Sarah, is anything too difficult for Yahweh? Nothing. Nothing is too difficult. So with that, my friends, shalom.